Do you like Pokemon? How about setting arbitrary, self-imposed rules to make Pokemon games artificially more difficult? Well, if so, you've come to the right place. Hi there, my name is Jake. I've been playing Pokemon for decades. I love these games and all the little critters that you can collect. There are thousands of different combinations of teams that you can assemble to beat these games, which is probably why it's kept my interest for so long. Simple things for simple minds, right? That fact, plus the fact that these games themselves are fairly easy, especially for adults like myself, is probably why Pokemon challenges have become so popular in recent years. I have done quite a few challenges myself, and I finally decided to record one and try my hand at a Pokemon challenge video. The challenge I decided on was this: beating Pokemon Leaf Green with no attacking moves. This is a challenge that I had never seen done before, although I was pretty sure that someone must have accomplished it at some point. Imagine beating an entire Pokemon game without using a direct attacking move. No tackle, no scratch, no flamethrower, thunderbolt, razor leaf, or anything like it. This means using only status moves that poison, burn, or otherwise deplete opponents' HP, typically slowly, through indirect means. Is that even possible? Well, I wasn't sure at first, but I can tell you now that it absolutely is. Want to see how I did it? Okay then, let's do this. First, let me just go over the self-imposed rules that I set upon myself. 1. No attacking moves, obviously. No moves that inflict damage on the turn that it is selected. This means that Struggle is banned. The only way that I can deal damage is by using moves like Poison Powder, Toxic, Leech Seed, etc. No items in battle. Typically, most opponents don't use items either. I decided to ban all items except Pokeballs, although I can only use them to capture Pokemon, not to stall out turns. I also banned held items since I felt that some of them, like leftovers, would give me a bit too much of an advantage since the vast majority of trainers in this game don't use held items either. Set battle format. This is typically how I always play, challenge or not. Getting a free switch out makes it a little too easy for my taste. No daycare. In this generation, leaving your Pokemon at the daycare will yield them experience points. I felt that doing this would go against the spirit of the challenge. I wanted to prove that I could beat the game and earn every shred of experience under these whimsical rules. No cheats, exploits, or speed up. I am playing this on an emulator. It's just easier and better quality for recording to use an emulator, but I wanted to do a challenge that could be done on a Game Boy or a DS system right now. I understand that speed up doesn't increase the difficulty of a challenge, nor would it change any strategies. But I'm in no rush and I wanted an authentic experience. And with that, our very own Pokemon legend is about to unfold. A world of dreams and adventures with Pokemon awaits. Let's go. Okay, so I start off with selecting Bulbasaur since it learns Leech Seed at level 7. So very early on, we get access to a great status affliction move. We don't start off with that move though, so I lose the first rival battle because I'm forced to spam Growl. Since we don't need to win that battle to progress though, we can move on. I ended up naming Bulbasaur Buddy. I'm not really sure why, it's kinda lame, but hey, we're rolling with it. So I deliver the parcel to Oak, get the Pokedex, and now it's time to execute my grand strategy. I head over to Route 22 west of Viridian City. I begin combing the grass for Nidoran, male or female, doesn't matter which. So Nidoran have the interesting ability Poison Point, an ability that has a chance to poison your opponent if they use a contact move, which is a pretty common type of move in the early game. I want to use this ability to poison wild Pokemon and outlast them while switch training Buddy until he gets Leech Seed at level 7. So, where are the Nidoran? I've walked in the grass for 10 minutes without encountering one, so I decided to look up their Route 22 encounter rate in Leaf Green. What is the encounter rate, you ask? 0. It's 0. There are no Nidoran on Route 22 in Leaf Green. That's only in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Well, I feel a bit sheepish. Okay, so I can't get Nidoran till after I beat Brock, so I need to formulate a new strategy. The only strategy I can think of is this. I catch a Metapod, doing so without damaging it, which, by the way, I'll have to save before attempting since Pokeballs are very limited early on and I have no way to increase the catch chances. Then I'm going to need to encounter a different Metapod or Kakuna and PP stall it until they start struggling. Then hopefully I can outlast them while they faint to recoil damage. Okay, so I find this Metapod, I name it Shigure, a cool character from a cool anime. And we'll probably use this since Butterfree's status moves are pretty awesome, even in the late game. So I encounter a wild Metapod and implement the strategy. But as it turns out, Shigure and Buddy collectively don't have enough HP to outlast the wild Metapod. So I'll have to catch another. Hopefully one more Metapod will be enough. After using 14 Pokeballs, I finally catch my second Metapod. I name it Really? Because, come on, really? 14 Pokeballs? So now, Really, Shigure, and Buddy do have enough collective HP to outlast the wild Metapod. And finally, some much needed experience. So I fight a few wild Pokemon with this strategy until Buddy finally learns Leech Seed. Now I can start taking out some trainers. So I fight and defeat a few bug catchers and get revenge against our rival. For some reason he spans Scratch instead of Ember, but whatever, easy win. Next up is Brock, but we have Leech Seed now and he's just really no match at all. Not much to talk about here, easy fight. Only thing of note is that Shigure did grow to level 10 and metamorphosed into Butterfree. After that, I head over to Route 3 and start clearing out the trainers on the way to Mount Moon. Along the way, I catch a Jigglypuff. Sleep tactics could prove useful, maybe? Once inside Mount Moon, I catch a Zubat, I name it Kensei-ma, and shortly after that, I catch a Geodude and name him Apachai. Can anybody guess what anime I was watching while recording this? I don't have a full strategy yet with these latest 3 captures, but I need to fill out my team. I did select Geodude for the Electric Gym to potentially stall out Surge while Leech Seed and Poison slowly whittle him down, but that's much later on. I start working my way through Mount Moon, and after Buddy evolves into Ivysaur, and after playing a little cat and mouse with this trainer, you'll see why later, I eventually reach and defeat Super Nerd Miguel, gatekeeper to Lord Helix. I take the Helix fossil, obviously, and I head out to Cerulean City. Could this little fossil prove useful in this run? No. The first thing I try in Cerulean is my rival at Nugget Bridge, even though his Charmander does terrify me. As it turns out, my fears were well founded. After dodging a Leech Seed, Charmander swept through my whole team. Pidgeotto was also a little problematic too. Maybe we'll try Misty first. As it turns out, that was the play. Both Staryu and Starmie went down without any trouble, earning us the Cascade badge, and another TM to sell. So I retried my rival at Nugget Bridge. After gaining a couple more levels across the team, and a slight change in tactics, the rival turned out to be much more feasible. After putting Pidgeotto and Charmander to sleep before seeding them, they went down with little difficulty. So, sleep tactics did prove useful. Abra and Rattata were easy, so the rival's been beaten. Now remember that trainer in Mount Moon I was playing cat and mouse with? She had the dreaded poison and grass type combo filling out her team. I remember fighting her through many of my Kanto playthroughs, so I made sure to avoid her. I did, however, forget that this lass on Nugget Bridge has an Oddish and a Bellsprout, and this battle is unavoidable. So here's the problem with Grass and Poison type. Grass types are immune to Leech Seed, and Poison types are immune to being poisoned. So how do I deal damage? Basically, I can either confuse them and hope that they just hit themselves in confusion enough before taking me out, or I can PP stall them like I did with the Metapod in Viridian Forest. Since the PP stall struggle strategy seems daunting, if not outright impossible, the confusion strategy it is. Now the only Pokemon that I have that can actually execute this strategy is Zubat with Supersonic. Supersonic is 55 accuracy, And since Pokemon only hit themselves 50% of the time when actually confused, this is very difficult. The first battle was a rout. Kensei Ma is just way too low a level to survive the onslaught as he just feebly chirps at the air. Not only that, but Supersonic having only 20 PP means that it's very possible, actually it's very likely, to run out of Supersonic PP before the opponent hits themselves enough. After a couple of attempts, I know this just isn't happening, so I decided to do some level grinding. If you haven't found out yet, and as I touched on at the beginning of the video, level grinding on low XP yielding Pokemon while using only status moves is a very difficult and tedious process. Since I also decided not to use the daycare or speed up, this makes this especially hard. I'm not sure why I implemented those rules, but I'm not changing them now, so just gotta bite the bullet and get it done. So after a little while, I decided to focus my training on Butterfree. Butterfree learns Supersonic at level 18, so only a couple levels to get there. This will give me 2 Pokemon with the move Supersonic. That's twice as much PP to get this battle done. Plus, one of the reasons why I wanted to have Butterfree on the team is because it has the amazing ability Compound Eyes. This ability gives Butterfree a 25% boost in accuracy to all of its moves. This means that the abysmal 55 accuracy gets boosted to a respectful 68.75 accuracy. Not amazing, but much more serviceable to be sure. So after training for about an hour or so, Butterfree now knows Supersonic, and it's time for another attempt at the dreaded last alley. After taking down the Pidgey with Leech Seed, Shigori was then pitted against the Grass Poison duo. It took Oddish quite a few turns of it hitting itself for it to go down, but it didn't really pose much of a threat to Shigori with its limited offensive firepower, so it went down with Shigori still having 50 hit points left. Now because Bellsprout is a more offensive Pokemon than Oddish, it sustained a lot more damage each time it hit itself. After hitting itself 4 times, Bellsprout went down. Shigori alone was enough to take down the Oddish and the Bellsprout. Thus, Last Alley has been vanquished. The rest of Nugget Bridge was uneventful, so a big milestone in the game has been achieved. I make my way up the Cape to Bill's house. Most of the trainers are fairly easy, but I do encounter another Lass with 2 Oddish. This trainer class is going to be brutal until I exit Rock Tunnel. I do defeat her handily, however, but it does take a while. So, now it's on to Bill's house. Okay, so get this. I enter Bill's house and discover that Bill is cosplaying, alone. Apparently he needs help getting himself out of the costume? Okay, whatever. I guess this is happening. So I help him out and Bill rewards me with a ticket to a cosplay party on a boat. Well, sir, as fun as that sounds, I have a challenge to accomplish, so I will unfortunately have to skip the party. But I will check out that boat. I head back to Cerulean and learn that this family had their dig TM stolen by this rocket. The police are on it. But it escaped them to check the backyard to see if the perpetrator is still there. So I defeat the Rocket Grunt in a Pokemon battle and recover the stolen TM. I'm just going to keep this one for myself though. Actually, I'm just going to sell it since I can't use it. Also, this guy can teleport, probably from the power of his Drowsy. Why didn't he just use that to flee the scene? This is a weird part of the game. It's SSN time. I clear out a bunch of trainers on the ship before challenging our rival. I fearlessly, and perhaps rashly, take him on. So I get through his whole team except Abra is now a Kadabra and hits way harder. Kadabra at this point of the game is a perfect glass cannon sweeper, and since I really can't take advantage of its low defense stats using only status moves, we lose our first attempt. I decide to try again instead of grinding. It was really close, and a couple of levels wouldn't affect the battle as much as simply having a better strategy. The second time, I made sure to keep Buddy healthy so that I can make sure to seed Kadabra. Once he is seeded, I use our newly acquired Drowsy to stall him out. This works perfectly, and our rival has been defeated again. Gym time. Surge is not all that difficult. In this generation, he has a level 21 Voltorb, a level 18 Pikachu, and a level 24 Raichu. He does stall me out for a while with healing items on his Voltorb, but once that's taken care of, I'm able to slowly whittle down his team with Poison and Leech Seed. I do switch into Geodude for a bit to stall out his Pikachu and Raichu once they are poisoned and seeded. It works out really well since their electric attacks do nothing, and I can boost Apachai's defense with Defense Curl to be able to withstand the quick attacks. It's weird that some of the easiest battles are the gym leaders. It's almost like the makers of the game assumed that most kids would ignore status moves and use basic attacking moves. Maybe this is why they seem susceptible to the status moves. When I was a kid, I thought all status moves were garbage. Pretty sure that's why I didn't have any status moves on any of my Hall of Fame teams until I was well into my teens. What about you guys? I feel like most kids are probably like this. Anyway, after defeating Surge, I grabbed the $1 Million Bike. Now that is a pretty epic voucher. Now it's time to head over to Rock Tunnel, but along the way, grass type trainer. Seriously, every time I encounter these types of trainers right now, it costs me anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes of gameplay. Even if everything goes smoothly and I win the first try, it simply takes me 20 minutes to just finish the battle. Remember, no speed up. Anyway, this new thorn in my side is a picnicker that goes by the name Alicia. She has 2 Bellsprout and 2 Oddish. This one is really tough. So she schools me the first time, giving me some of my own medicine with a steady dose of status affliction moves. We go down to the second Oddish. I decided to capture a Bellsprout for myself. It won't help me in damaging these Pokemon, but I'm able to stall them out while they're confused, using Flash to destroy their accuracy. Mostly though, I needed another Poison type Pokemon to protect me from Poison Powder. I didn't even nickname it since I really don't plan on using it after Rock Tunnel. Rematch, let's go. So after confusing the Oddish, I skillfully switch into Bellsprout to stall her out until she snaps out of confusion. Then I switch back into Shigure or Kensei-ma to reapply the confusion. This takes forever, but it does work. Seriously though, this whole sequence took me easily an hour and a half of gameplay. This is where the game really tested my patience. While I never thought of quitting, I did take a break from playing for a couple of days after this. Now with regards to Rock Tunnel, I am really glad that I had Flash, since it helps me to avoid some grass and poison type trainers, literally saving me hours of gameplay. This picnicker Dana was really the last obstacle, and she only had 1 Oddish, so we took her out and made it through the tunnel. This part of the game is always a big milestone in my eyes. It's really where the map starts opening up. This will allow us to start preparing our final team. Reinforcements are on the way. The first thing I do when I exit the tunnel is run over to Route 8 and catch the first Vulpix I see. I name it Kamihu. Kamihu has the move Will-O-Wisp. This is our answer to grass poison types. The agony is over. So I train her up to level 23. Then I head to the Celadon department store to buy a Firestone. I also stock up on some vending machine items. Why do vending machine items heal your Pokemon more than the pharmaceutical equivalents sold at the counter? This has always baffled me, but listen, always buy fresh water. It's the best value and it's the easiest to buy since you just spam A. After doing this, I also exchange 1 fresh water, 1 soda pop, and 1 lemonade for the TM's Light Screen, Safeguard, and Reflect. These TMs could actually be useful. I put TM20 Safeguard to use right away, teaching it to Kamihu. I know she learns it by level up, but I don't want to wait that long, and I really don't foresee that move being all that useful on any other team member. So I teach Kamihu Safeguard and use the Firestone since there are no other level up moves I need for her. Kamihu now lives up to her name as the 9-tailed fox, and next on my list, Erika. I look at the battle with Erika as a culmination of all the hours toiling against grass poison types. Now with Kamihu on my side, it's time my team gets revenge, forever burying the dread of this vexing type combination. Let's do it. My goal is to solo this battle with Kamihu, and based off the battles of the other trainers in this gym, I felt like this would be possible despite the slight level disadvantage. This was the first gym that was a bit more interesting, so let's do a play-by-play on this one. Erika leads with her level 29 Victory Bell. I of course lead with Gamihu and start by setting up Safeguard. This will protect me from her status affliction moves. Fortunately, I have the speed advantage, so her first stun spore is neutralized. I next burn Victory Bell with Will-O-Wisp. I then use Confuse Ray to hopefully chip some extra HP through self-inflicted confusion damage. Erika apparently doesn't understand how Safeguard works and keeps trying to paralyze me with Stun Spore. In case you don't know what Safeguard does, here's a quick explanation. When Safeguard is applied, it will protect you from being status afflicted with burn, poison, confusion, and the like. It does not cure existing status conditions and will not prevent things like self-inflicted sleep with moves like Rest. But after Safeguard is set up, it will protect my entire team, meaning nobody on my team will be statused as long as Safeguard is up. This will last for exactly 5 turns. So basically, as long as I'm careful to keep track of the turns, since there's no counter in Gen 3 to double check, I can essentially protect myself from being afflicted indefinitely. The text does alert me to Safeguard falling. However, if I'm switching Gamihu in and out, this could leave an opening. Now, one other opening that can happen, leaving me vulnerable to being statused, is if the opponent is faster than me. This is why I was slightly concerned of not getting Safeguard off before Victory Bell paralyzed me, because while Ninetales certainly has a higher base speed than Victory Bell, I wasn't sure if being 7 levels lower would still allow me the speed advantage. I am still faster though, so Safeguard was safely set up. After I whittle Victory Bell down, Erika uses a Hyper Potion to restore its HP. But between hitting herself in confusion and attempting only status moves, despite Safeguard, Victory Bell never ends up landing a hit on Gamihu. Next up is Tangela. I inflict a burn, but she uses Ingrain, so she is going to be recovering about half the HP lost every turn to burn. Erika then uses a full heal to cure that burn, as I land a Confuse Ray, hoping to inflict more damage occasionally. I then reapply the burn as Tangela hits itself in confusion. Safeguard falls, so I set it up again. After Tangela hits itself again, I start laying in Tail Whips. Lowering her defense will cause confusion damage to deal more HP, since confusion damage targets the defense stat. Tangela, like the Victory Bell, continues to use status moves as I slowly stall her out. After a few turns, she does finally use Giga Drain. But due to Gamihu's reasonably high special defense stat, it really doesn't do much damage. Tangela does recover a little HP though, helping to prolong the battle. If I were Erika, I'd be using Constrict. It's a really weak move, technically the weakest damaging move in the game, since it doesn't even deal chip damage and it's not a multi-hit move. But it does have a chance of lowering my speed. If she were to lower my speed, say 2 or 3 stages, this could leave me vulnerable to the powder moves in between setting up Safeguard. She only uses it twice though, never actually lowering my speed, and eventually goes down to burn damage. So while Tangela took a while to stall out, she only did 13 hit points of damage, leaving me with 61 left. Well, 63 after growing to level 24. Safeguard is already set up going into the Vileplume fight, so looking pretty good. I set up the burn on the Vileplume on the first turn, while Erika continues using status moves while Safeguard is set up. Maybe she's just spacing out again. She tends to do that. Since Erika has no more healing items, Vileplume's HP is plummeting, relatively speaking. She does go down without ever using an attacking move. Ninetales has relatively low physical defense, and Erika never attempts any of her physical moves throughout the fight. The AI here clearly had no idea how to handle Safeguard. It appears it was programmed to just use status moves when they have the type disadvantage. After struggling with grass types through the early part of our journey, it was really satisfying to have such a dominating and relatively quick fight. This fight was still 11 minutes long and she only had 3 Pokemon, thus showing just how long these battles actually take. I'm sure the Elite Four will have many 20-minute fights. No time to worry about that now. We are roughly at about the halfway point of the game now, and I think it's time to talk a little bit about what my final team will look like. I didn't really have a plan for what the team would consist of when I first started out, other than Buddy, our starter. So we're definitely going to go with Buddy, and we're definitely going to go with Kamihu, and we'll probably go with Shigure as well. I am a little concerned about Shigure not having much use later on due to having pretty weak stats, but those status moves along with Compound Eyes are just very tempting to have on the final team. I've pretty much decided that Kensei-ma the Zubat and Mio the Jigglypuff will not be on the final team. Sing is just way too inaccurate, and Mio doesn't really provide much else in the way of status moves. Kensei-ma can help with confusing and poisoning, but Shigure and Kamihu can confuse much more consistently, and Shigure along with Buddy can reliably poison the opponent. I have a pretty good idea of who I want for my next 2 team members, but I need the Silph Scope to get access to them, so let's do that. I head over to the Rocket Hideout under the game corner. I make it through with limited battles, mostly leaning on Buddy to leech seed the poison types, with occasionally using Kamihu to spread out the experience. Now it's time to take on Giovanni for the first time. He was really easy. All his Pokemon could be poisoned and leech seeded, allowing his HP to dwindle quickly. I could have soloed this with Buddy easily, but I wanted to spread out some experience, so I used this opportunity to switch train the team. I'm going to do this with some of the bigger battles that I clearly have an advantage in, since these trainers give out good experience and I need to limit the level grinding in this run. Despite switch training during the Giovanni fight, it took us only about 7 minutes to win, so very fast. He dropped the priceless Silph Scope in his haste to flee my passively aggressive team, and now it's time to take on the Lavender Tower. First thing we do is take on the rival. His team is growing and starting to evolve. They're starting to hit a lot harder now. His type diversity is actually causing more difficulties than I had anticipated. We do have the level advantage this time though, so he wasn't all that difficult. Now it's time to add a new team member. I head up a level to catch a Ghastly. It's only at level 13, so it has some work to do to catch up to the rest of the team. I chose Ghastly as a final team member since he has some really unique status moves. Hypnosis and Nightmare, that combo could be really cool, plus Curse and Destiny Bond, they could be really handy against strong opponents. He of course has Confuse Ray as well, giving me another Pokemon who can reliably confuse opponents. We won't be able to get him up to a Gengar in this run since no trading, so he'll be a Haunter. Haunter's base stats heavily lean to a Glass Cannon Special Sweeper. Not at all the stats that are ideal for a status-only run, but he is unique enough where I think he'll be worth having on the team. I name him Boo. You know, like in Mario. Look, I couldn't think of anything, okay? So I defeat Mama Marowak and head to the top floor to clear out Team Rocket. As I'm doing that, something very interesting happens. Buddy grows to level 32 during the battle. Then he proceeds to faint during the same battle. At the end of the battle, he still evolves into Venusaur. To be honest, I was actually surprised at this. I never thought of this scenario before, and apparently in 20 years of playing these games, I never encountered it either. But it's just a fun little anecdote. I finish off the rest of the grunts and rescue Mr. Fuji. He gives me the Pokeflute. Now, oh boy, now it's time to get another member of the team. Snorlax. I believe that this guy could challenge Buddy as the MVP in the back half of this game. He is a thick, chunky boy who can take many hits while buffing his defenses and resting up to recover HP to act as the perfect stalling Pokemon. I capture him, name him Totoro, and promptly add him to the team. He has the ability Thick Fat. This ability essentially gives this big boy a fire and ice type resistance. He really could be a perfect counter to Lorelei or the rival's Charizard. I head down Cycling Road, fighting most of the bikers and cue balls along the way, since they give out pretty good experience. And they also have Pokemon that Boo can for the most part handle. He really needs to catch up in levels. Koga is the OG status move specialist, and I'm really curious about how this battle is going to turn out. I clear out the gym without much difficulty, but Koga, he was a little bit of a roadblock. I now know that I made a mistake leading off with Boo. I'm really trying to switch drain him. I thought that since the bikers and the trainers in Koga's gym weren't too difficult, that I'd be able to steal some experience here. Mistake. I really didn't even realize that I was in trouble until his first coughing blew up in Buddy's face, knocking him out. From then on, the outcome was inevitable. Yes, we put up a valiant effort, but really we were fortunate to get as far as we did. We need Leech Seed to win this battle. This was also our first time in a while that we were very much outleveled. I decide to head over to Silph to thwart the rocket takeover, since the police again seem unwilling to serve and protect. I will probably take out most of, if not all, hostiles in this place, since once I beat it, these guys are gone forever. Like I said before, getting experience against trainers is much more preferable to wild Pokemon, where the battles take almost as long, they provide less experience, and I don't even get the consolation of cash winnings. So I clear out Silph, took me about 3.5 to 4 hours of gameplay, and go to retry Koga. I decided to try Koga before the rival because I think I would fare better against Koga. Plus, gaining a little more experience might be helpful before the rival battle. Koga rematch. This time I learned my lesson. Nah, I actually didn't. I led with Boo again to try and steal some experience. If you're wondering why Boo is not a Haunter yet, it's because I'm trying to get him to level 41 so he learns Nightmare before becoming a Haunter. If I allowed him to evolve, he wouldn't learn it until level 53. That's an insane difference, and I'm not willing to wait that long for that move. It makes the current battles a little tougher, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. After leading with the Team Experience Vulture Boo, I switch into Buddy. I waste no time in hitting Coughing with Leech Seed. Then I put Coughing to sleep so that I can recover HP lost from his Sludge attack. I then start using Sweet Scent so that his sleep powders will hit almost every time. I do this for a while until Coughing gets to just a sliver of HP while still asleep. Just as Coughing is about to faint to Leech Seed, he wakes up on the last turn and gets off the self-destruct anyway. Come on, are you serious? Buddy hangs on with 21 HP, but this is bad. He sends out Muck next and everything rides on this sleep powder landing. It does, and maybe we can salvage this thing. I seed Muck so that Buddy can recover some HP. Since Muck is an HP dominant Pokemon, we recover massive amounts of health each turn. By the time he wakes up, we're back to about 70% of our health. Since we laid in a few Sweet Scents along the way, the sleep powder is all but guaranteed to hit. But Muck does nail us with a powerful Sludge attack, taking us back down to 36 HP. He is asleep now, and we have an opportunity to recover some more health. We get back to 68 HP, but then he wakes up and hits us again, bringing us back down to 38. I decide enough is enough and I switch into Boo, who 4 times resists the Sludge attacks. Koga instead uses a Hyper Potion. I put him to sleep with Boo's Hypnosis, then I confuse him so that if he wakes up, he could hit himself instead of attacking. I then switch back into Buddy, hoping to get some more HP back. Muck wakes up on the switching turn, but hits himself in confusion. That was perfect. Since Boo was out when Koga selected that move though, there's a pretty good chance he wouldn't have used the 4 times resisted Sludge attack and could have elected to start spamming Minimize as he often does. That switch was a calculated risk. I put him back to sleep and Buddy recovers to full HP and Muck is leeched to a sliver of HP over a few moves. On his last turn, he wakes up again, only to hit himself in confusion, finishing him off. Oh man, that was awesome. Confusion has actually been really good. I always thought it was a lame status condition, so I never really used it in the past, but maybe it is a good status condition after all. With Muck down, Koga is down to 2 Pokemon. He sends out the second Coughing. I mentally deliberate for a moment on whether I should put him to sleep or seed it. I decided to seed it. This blows up in my face quite literally as Coughing uses self-destruct turn 1. This brings Buddy back down to 21 HP, but Koga is down to his last Pokemon. He sends out his level 43 Weezing. I use Leech Seed right away. Buddy gets KO'd with a Sludge, but this Weezing is on a time limit. I send out Boo, and believe it or not, this fragile little ball of gas is probably the most tanky team member for this Wheezing. I afflict it with a curse and confuse him. Wheezing fairly rapidly is losing HP and eventually goes down to hitting itself in confusion. That earns us the Soul Badge, and with that, the apprentice surpasses the master. Next up is a big milestone battle against our rival at Silph Co. He has nearly a fully evolved team now. How will we fare? I lead off with Gamihu to face off against Pidgeot. I burn it and confuse it as Pidgeot fruitlessly lowers our defense. After a long drawn out head-to-head, Gamihu comes out on top. Next up is Gyarados. I confuse him on the first turn, hoping that his high attack stat will deal a lot of self-inflicted damage. After tail whipping him once, he's already lost a third of his HP after hitting himself twice in a row. After a rare miss of Will-O-Wisp, Gyarados avoids hitting himself and finishes off Gamihu with a Dragon Rage. A really solid performance by her though, more than I could have hoped for. I send out Shigure next. I hit a Supersonic after he snaps out of his first bout of confusion. He hits a weak Bite. Bite stinks on Gyarados in this generation since all dark moves are classified as special. Gyarados' special attack? Not good. I then use a Poison Powder as he hits himself in confusion. He hits himself again, knocking himself out. Man, confusion has been a favorable status condition for us in this fight. Next up is his monstrous Charizard. I thought about switching out Shigure since she doesn't stand a chance against this guy, but I really didn't have a safe switch. Shigure gets one shot by a wing attack. I send out Totoro. Charizard wisely uses a wing attack, targeting our lower physical defense and bypassing our thick fat ability. This takes nearly 1/3 of our health. We land a Toxic. Yes, I taught Totoro Toxic. This move is going to be most useful on him. We get hit by another wing attack. I use Rest and we get hit again. This is going to be close. It's a range on a 3-hit KO. Rest is a 3-turn move. We get crit on the next wing attack. Okay, this won't be close after all. Totoro goes down on the next turn. So I send out Chiding to take another hit and stall out another turn of poison. He obviously goes down in one hit. I switch into Boo to steal some more experience. Charizard succumbs to the poison. Next is the Execute. I land Hypnosis first turn. I then use Curse to doom Execute in 4 to 5 turns. I confuse him to hopefully have him hit himself upon waking up. This happens. Confusion strikes again. After successfully putting him back to sleep, Execute goes down to Curse damage. Last up is the ever-looming Alakazam. I try a Destiny Bond first turn. He uses Future Sight though, causing the Destiny Bond to fail. I decide to just use Curse instead to guarantee damage output. I really could have kept trying Destiny Bond, in fact that probably would have been the right move, but I use Curse instead. I switch into Buddy and he takes the Future Sight damage, bringing us down to a mere 34 HP. I try a Sleep Powder and miss. He foolishly sets up another Future Sight. We do not have the speed advantage though, so all he has to do is attack us and we will lose. But he tries the Future Sight again. It fails since he already set it up and it doesn't stack, so we use Sleep Powder the next turn and it lands. We have a chance. We land a Leech Seed and he takes curse damage while asleep. He is down to red HP. Now, I'm not sure what the move priorities are here. The Future Sight would have absolutely taken us out. But before that could happen, Alakazam goes down on the next turn. Now, whether that's because he has the speed advantage and thus receives the affliction first, or if Future Sight would have struck just before the next round of turns anyway. It's unclear to me which is the case, but either way, we win. That was close. We were really fortunate that we came out on top there. Poor move choices and having great confusion RNG really bailed us out. At the time, I also incorrectly believed two things. One, I thought Alakazam had an actual attacking move, but he didn't. His only damage-dealing move was Future Sight. 2. I also thought that the rival had a Hyper Potion. This would have meant certain defeat as well. But he didn't, so we win. So I pick up the Lapras from the gentleman after the rival battle. After defeating the grunt outside the Silph President office, Boo learned Nightmare and we let him evolve into Haunter. Giovanni really wasn't difficult. It took about 10 minutes, but we whittled him down pretty efficiently. Our damage output has really gone up since getting Boo with Nightmare and Curse, and Totoro with Toxic. So now Silph has been completed and another big milestone is accomplished. Our first attempt at Sabrina was an L. Her psychic types are just way too powerful for us to last long enough while we slowly try to stall her out. We're just too low a level at this point. Let's try Blaine instead. He's usually a softball. Yep, per usual. He took a little while to take down, but we were never really in any danger. Volcano badge obtained. I'm thinking Sabrina still might be a bit too much to deal with, so I'm going to go clear out the Sevi Islands and gain a little bit more experience that way. So after getting some experience by clearing the Sevi Islands, I go to attempt Sabrina again. She is the toughest Kanto gym leader typically. I really don't actually think that that's even debatable. The only one I think that could theoretically be harder is Brock, since your choice of team members are limited at that part of the game, but even so, I still feel Sabrina is tougher. Her team uses all special attacks, so with Totoro basically having a near impenetrable special defense stat, he pretty much handles most of her team. It takes a little bit of time, and I got a little nervous when Alakazam started setting up Calm Minds. She never ended up landing a critical hit though, and we were able to handle her fairly easily. Now we have earned the Marsh badge. The Viridian Gym is now open, and it's time to take on Giovanni for the last time. I thought I might be able to solo this with Buddy. He handled the first Rhyhorn with very little difficulty. Dugtrio, on the other hand, just hit way too hard and fast with Earthquake. We tried putting it to sleep, but he only slept for one turn, so we went down. We did hit him with the Leech Seed before he went down, and Shigori was able to finish off the Dugtrio. After that, Boo basically walls his entire team. We took his final Rhyhorn and his Nidoqueen down with the Hypnosis Nightmare combo. The Ace Nidoking went down to Nightmare and Curse damage. Once again, Giovanni was pretty easy. I don't know about you guys, but he was never really a challenge for me. Even when I was a kid, I remember many times just sweeping him with Surf. So now we have all 8 gym badges. We can make our way to the Pokemon League. Standing in our path of Victory Road is our rival. He has a team of Pokemon between the levels of 45 and 53, so we are severely underleveled. How would we fare? Terribly. We get smoked the first try. I head out and fight a few trainers to gain a couple levels throughout the team. Then I try again. Denied. I give another attempt, this time trying to buff up Totoro's defenses to try and solo him with just Totoro. Maybe that'll work. Nope. So this just doesn't look possible at our current level. A single crit from a relatively weak attacking Pidgeot bypasses all of my defense boosts and deals massive damage. I need to grind. A lot. So I head out to the ocean and start fighting a bunch of swimmers. I also gain some levels on Cycling Road using the Versus Seeker. I mainly focus my training on Totoro. I believe he is going to be the most important piece to beating our rival. I get him up to level 46 and give the rival another shot. I start by setting up Totoro against Pidgeot. Pidgeot isn't too dangerous, so it could be possible to solo this with Totoro. We are able to boost our defenses and periodically rest to stay healthy. Since we are now at a higher level, we are able to withstand an occasional crit. Once Totoro's defenses are sufficiently boosted, we lay a Toxic on Pidgeot and the gauntlet has been thrown. Slowly, methodically, Totoro withstands the opponent's blows as they slowly whittle down to poison damage. Finally, the rival's monstrous Charizard comes out. We hit it with Toxic and he slowly is drained of HP while we continue to regain ours using Rest. We win with using only Totoro. I knew that having a Snorlax on the team would be amazing. Before Victory Road, I renamed Lapras Nessie and I renamed Boo Lurk. I felt that Boo was no longer an appropriate nickname for Haunter since he was no longer spherical, but looking back, I wish I had kept the name Boo. I was kinda getting attached to it, but oh well, Lurk it is. The first battle in Victory Road was a win, but it took 12 minutes. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. Victory Road was pretty uneventful, albeit long, so now it's time to take on the Elite Four. These are the strongest trainers in the region. I have to fight them all in a row, and I'm worried about running out of PP for some of my most important moves. I did have some elixirs and potions to heal up between fights, but I could even run into the problem of running out of PP in the midst of battle, so I need to be careful. I try quite a few attempts. Here's the gist. Lorelei is fairly consistent. I beat her most times. I'm able to get past Bruno less consistently than Lorelei, but still better than half the time. Agatha is tough. I can't poison her team. She is supposedly the ghost-type trainer. Not really though. She does have 3 ghosts, although they're all the same species line, and her Pokemon are all at least part poison. She is a poison-type trainer. Henceforth, I will be addressing her as such. I managed to squeak past her one time, only to be destroyed by Lance, who is really more of a flying-type trainer. I've heard Lance be addressed as Birdkeeper Lance before. I find this hilarious and appropriate, so I will be calling him by this title. Birdkeeper Lance has high-level, hard-hitting Pokemon. His 2 Dragonair have the Shed Skin ability, meaning that poison often has to be reapplied if they heal themselves with said ability. Additionally, 3 of his Pokemon have the move Safeguard. We all know how that works. So this makes landing status moves very challenging. We will need to gain more levels to withstand his strong attacks. Up to this point, I've done about 3.5 hours of attempts on the Elite Four. These battles are so long that I can't do a play-by-play for all successful attempts, since each play-by-play would take about 10 minutes long. That makes for a very long and no doubt boring video, so I'll sum up the strategies for each member. Lorelei is fairly simple. Totoro is specially tanky, and that is the vast majority of her moves. Sometimes Lapras can hit pretty hard with Body Slam, but I'm usually able to buff Totoro's defenses by the time Lapras comes out, so I really only have to worry about critical hits. That's pretty much the only way I lose to Lorelei, so I have about a 90% success rate. Just soloing her with Totoro is the strategy. Bruno is a bit tougher than I'd anticipated. I thought that Buddy and Lurk would make quick work of him, but I do have to be careful. Even though Lurk renders fighting, ground, and normal type moves useless, Hitmonchan and Machamp both have Rock Tomb, which can hit us. Since Lurk is pretty frail, this makes quick work of us. I have to make sure to save Buddy's HP as much as possible so that I can seed the opponent. Then I need to make strategic switches, like predicting an Onyx Earthquake or a normal type move, and switch into Lurk so that the attack will fail. I also try to put them to sleep as much as possible. Doing these things often nets me the victory. Poison Trainer Agatha is tough. The best strategy is really a team effort. Applying Leech Seed and Burns as much as possible is the main strategy, along with making strategic switches like switching into a non-sleeping team member when Nightmare and Dream Eater are imminent to nullify these attacks. This strategy typically gets me to the final Gengar with 4 or 5 of my team members relatively healthy. I usually use Perish Song on the final Gengar, and then just try to outlast him for 3 turns to seal the victory. This overall strategy still only works about 30% of the time. Birdkeeper Lance was incredibly tough. His scariest Pokemon was actually the Aerodactyl. He is fast and hits like a freight train. Not to mention his pressure ability made it tough to use any good moves too often for fear of running out of PP. The best strategy I could find was to bulk up Totoro's defenses and try to solo it with him as much as possible, and then have the rest of my team try to clean up what remains. The Dragonair with their Shed Skin ability ultimately makes it impossible for Totoro to fully solo Lance alone. I lost 3 times in a row before I finally achieved victory against him. Each time I lost, I went back and started the Elite Four all over again, trying to keep in spirit of the Elite Four challenge. On the winning attempt, I get through Gyarados, Aerodactyl, and Dragonite with Totoro alone. The first Dragonair was dispatched with Leech Seed. I did land a few Toxics, but Dragonair kept healing up with Shed Skin. So the final Dragonair, I decided to have Nessie get off a Perish Song. I switched back into Totoro to outlast the Dragonair. This works, and Lance has finally been beaten. That took forever. Whenever I lost, I reset the game, since I would run out of PP restoring items if I didn't. I finally got a run where I took down the Elite Four in sequence. I must confess, however, that after that marathon, I decided to save after the Lance victory, since losing to the rival and having to start that all over again probably would have made me cry. I'm really glad that I did, since I did lose to him twice. See, Pidgeot has Whirlwind, This means that I can't just set up with Totoro and try to solo his whole team. After losing to him twice, I decided on a strategy in which I would lead with Kamihu. I also used all my rare candies to get Totoro up to level 57. This is what happened on the next attempt. I lead with Kamihu against Pidgeot. Pidgeot hits hard with an aerial ace, bringing us down to nigh half health. We hit with a Will-O-Wisp. Pidgeot then uses a sand attack and we miss our Confuse Ray. Aerial Ace does less damage this time due to the inflicted burn, and I make the mistake of using Tail Whip. I don't remember if this was a misclick or just a brain fart. Either way, I should have used Confuse Ray there. Pidgeot finishes us with an Aerial Ace on the next turn. I throw Buddy out there and he gets hit with a super effective Aerial Ace, but we land the all-important Leech Seed. I switch out into Shigure to preserve Buddy's health and she takes massive damage from an Aerial Ace. We recover a bit from Leech Seed, but the burn leaves Pidgeot with what looks to be exactly 1 HP. Blue then uses one of his full restores and recovers all of the HP while healing the burn. Leech Seed is still active, but that one stung. I land a Sleep Powder, hoping that maybe while Pidgeot's asleep, Shigure can recover some health. I then use a Supersonic to confuse him. I then start using Harden to maybe withstand some hits. Pidgeot hurts itself on the turn that it wakes up. Unfortunately, he snaps out of confusion and lands another super effective Aerial Ace before I can put him back to sleep, bringing us down to 28 HP. The next Sleep Powder hits, and I decide to switch back into Buddy. I waste a turn while Pidgeot succumbs to the seeding before it can wake up. Our rival is down 1, but so are we, and here comes the dreaded Alakazam. Alakazam has an actual attacking move now in Psychic, and he wastes no time in using it first turn, one-shotting Buddy. That really hurts. Now we are down 2.5 and no more Leech Seed. So I send out Totoro and he lands a Psychic, taking away about a quarter of our health as I use Amnesia to start buffing our defenses. He uses a useless Reflect as I get off another Amnesia. He then uses Psychic again, doing a pitiful amount of damage as I get off the last Amnesia required to max Totoro's special defense. He hits us with another weak Psychic and we use Toxic. He has a Synchronize ability as we know, and we also get poisoned, but we do have Rest to remedy that. He hits another Psychic and then we do just that. Rest, fully recovering our health and expelling the poison. After 3 weak Psychics, he is down to a third of his health, and we wake up and start using Defense Curl to start boosting our physical defense. He gets down to very low health and sets up a Future Sight as we use another Defense Curl. He falls to poison at the end of this turn, and now Blue is down 2 Pokemon. He then sends out Exeggutor. I foolishly use another Defense Curl instead of trying to set up poison, and it backfires. The next turn he puts me to sleep before I can use Toxic. The Future Sight attack gets let off, but for some reason it fails. I don't know why this happened, but hey, I'll take it. Exeggutor uses Egg Bomb again while we sleep, but it does minimal damage. He then uses Light Screen and we land Toxic on the turn that we wake up. We then get put to sleep again. He uses Egg Bomb thrice, missing once while we sleep. We wake up and use another Defense Curl and he is down to very low health. Blue uses another full restore to save Exeggutor from fading, while I'll use Rest to heal up. I wish I had predicted that move and used Toxic, but I was playing it conservative due to the fact I felt I was due for a critical hit. Exeggutor hits all 3 Egg Bombs while we sleep and I use Defense Curl again upon waking. He uses another Egg Bomb as I reapply the poison. He misses a Sleep Powder as I get off another Defense Curl to finally max out our physical defense stat. He hits another very weak Egg Bomb, and I rest up since there's nothing more to do other than wait at this point. Exeggutor starts using Giga Drain, but they do next to nothing, and he is finally overcome by the poison. That's 3 down. Next up is Rhydon. I poison it right away as he uses Scary Face. While it was nice having the speed advantage for once, even if it was only for one move, he lands an Earthquake, and despite our fully buffed defense stat, it does about 10 to 15% of our health. This is scary, a critical hit, and Totoro is in trouble. He uses another earthquake, and I use rest to keep out of crit range. He hits with a few earthquakes and gets us down to low health. I predict the full restore on the turn we're about to wake up and select Toxic. It pays off, and that's what happens. We're in pretty good shape now. I take another earthquake as I waste another turn by using Defense Curl. The next turn I do the same thing. He strikes again with the moving ground, and I use rest to heal up. I believe I timed it right so that I should wake up in time to face the next Pokemon. His HP dips below half. He again uses a couple of earthquakes before he finally runs out of time. That's 4 down. Here comes the atrocious Pokemon Gyarados. He has Dragon Rage, which does set damage of 40 HP, but Totoro has tons of HP, in fact plenty to spare. I set up Poison the first turn again, and I get hit with another Dragon Rage. I decide to waste another turn using Defense Curl. I'm really glad Defense Curl has so much PP. I get hit again, and this time I rest up. He starts using Thrash while I'm asleep, which does less damage than Dragon Rage, but there is a chance for a critical hit. If you couldn't tell, I had some major anxiety in this fight about getting a critical hit. He hits me twice while Totoro is sleeping, and he is down to low HP when he stops thrashing and becomes confused. Blue uses a full restore again to fully heal Gyarados' HP, removing the poison and confusion all in one fell swoop. I make another savvy prediction, if I do say so myself, and use Toxic upon waking. Gyarados is once again thrashing about and I waste another turn. Same thing for the next turn. He thrashes a third time and this time I rest up. He drops below half health and becomes confused from fatigue. He hits himself while we are sleeping and the poison finishes him off. That's 5 down, 1 to go. Now the almighty Charizard. He starts using Aerial Ace when we are sleeping, but they do so little. We poison him upon waking. It hits again. We haven't missed one Toxic this whole fight. Charizard uses another Aerial Ace and we waste a turn. He tries a Fire Blast this time, not faring better, and we waste yet another turn. Poison has taken a third of his health at this point. He hits another Aerial Ace and we use Rest. Poison takes him down below half health. He starts using Slash, which is making me nervous, high crit rate. He recovers HP with a Citrus Berry, but Poison takes him back down to about a quarter of his health. Will the next bout of Poison be enough to finish him? He hits another weak Fire Blast and we continue to sleep. And Charizard succumbs to the poison. It's over. Totoro legit did this with his eyes closed. What a boss. Well, then again though, doesn't he always have his eyes closed? And with that, we are the champion. Not one attacking move used all game. I'll be honest, I really wasn't sure that this was possible. When I attempted this, I had not seen it done yet. But I knew that Snorlax, if we were going to do it, was going to be huge. Both literally and figuratively. And he was. Most definitely the MVP. All the team members, though, played a vital role throughout the whole adventure, and getting these contributions from everyone really made this all the more satisfying. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little off script now. Grinding levels was absolutely brutal, and it was by far the worst part of this run, and the Elite Four was a slog overall. But truthfully, I really had fun. It was technically about 44.5 hours of actual playtime, but that's not accurate since I had so many resets. I ended up recording all of my play. Don't ask me to post it, I've deleted most of it to free up space. But it looks as though, assuming my math is right, that I had about over 70 hours of footage. It was a grind at times, and infuriating, but I wouldn't mind trying this challenge in another game at some point. I might do a few simpler ones first though. Since I finished this challenge, I actually did watch a few that did this exact challenge. I knew that was going to be the case. It's just very unlikely that I would come up with something that someone hasn't accomplished or done before. These games have been out for a very long time. But the two that I watched were Smallite and Point Crow. They did this exact challenge in the exact same game. They actually did it a little differently than I did, mostly because they were doing it as a race, which was very, very interesting and very fun. So they had a little bit different rules than I did, and they had different strategies, and they of course were far more efficient. They're the real pro gamers. So I'll put them in the description as soon as I figure out how to do that. I'm a real noob with this stuff, but definitely give it a watch. It was a lot of fun. If you're still here, wow. I really appreciate it. This was a very long video, and anybody who stuck around for this long, it's just amazing. I'm just an amateur, and I just wanted to create something for fun that I can look back on, and anybody that would stick around this long and watch something that I created really fills me with joy. So I really appreciate it. If you liked it, let YouTube know that you did by hitting that like button. I'm pretty much rambling at this point, so with that said, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.